Yo, it's Reefar with Disclose. Pow!
Welcome back.
Yo, so then Pentagon, time's already up. Aliens, reveal yourself. Or not. June 1st was the deadline for the Pentagon to release a UFO report declassifying information they have on these UAPs or UFOs. It's now June 6th. The world's getting impatient, but as far as we know, the deadline has been moved to June 25th or any time as of now. And already they are stalling, trying to buy that little extra time while they carefully think about what information can be leaked and what is going to remain top secret. A quick recap, going back to the main curiosity concerning the $2.3 billion coronavirus relief package passed by Congress in December was a stipulation requiring the Department of Defense and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence to deliver an unclassified report on unidentified flying objects to Congress within 6 months as of December 2020, compiling what the government knows about UFOs rocketing around and over American airspace. The report, which comes after a slow 4-year drip of reporting and government admissions on UFO sightings, should have been delivered to Congress as early as June 1st. But regardless of what's in the report, the release is supposed to be the most direct US government account of what officials call unidentified aerial phenomena ever made public. The legislation passed in December 2020 stipulates that the report must include detailed analysis of unidentified aerial phenomena, data and intelligence collected by the Office of Naval Intelligence, the FBI and the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force. This is a program the Department of Defense created last summer to detect, analyze and catalogue UAPs that could potentially pose a threat to US national security. It then goes on to call for a detailed description with multiple agencies for how such data would be collected and analysed going forward and recommendations for further UFO research and funding. The world's been getting excited by this, but I don't think disclosure is coming, guys. They are not going to tell us anything we don't already know. They cannot confirm nor deny these UAPs are from Earth or another solar system or even our own solar system. They cannot confirm nor deny these UAPs are piloted by human beings or extraterrestrial beings. They cannot confirm nor deny these UAPs are mechanical in nature, as in artificial intelligence. Basically, all they can tell us is what we already know. But the first step is done. They are confirming we have UFOs in our skies, and we have done for millennia. But of course, they know what these things are. Governments around the world have tried to shoot these things down. Governments around the world, in my opinion, this is not fact, but have been and are in contact with these UFOs. So what can they tell us? Apparently, they are as oblivious to this phenomena than the public are. Yeah, right. And I can bet my right arm on it, when or if a UFO document is released to the public, it will make good reading, but the moment it starts to get interesting, we will have pages and pages of brushed out paragraphs. I've seen many already. So this is a pretty straightforward video today, me calling out the BS the Pentagon is going to feed us, and once again we're going to have to bend over and take it with a pinch of salt. I've got 4 clips here from the media and experts in the ufology field about what to expect or what not to expect from this report. I've got my eyes on it, guys, and I will try to keep you updated if there is anything to update you with. I think this video is going to nail it on the head when the moment comes. I hope I'm wrong, I really do, but I can't see them releasing any information that's going to lead to full disclosure. All they've done so far is admit we have foreign vehicles in the airspace all around planet Earth. Let me know what you think about this situation, guys. With the truth still tightly packed away, I guess channels like mine can remain running. Bonus. Anyways, UFOs exist, we already know this, and I'll catch you soon. Legends.
Gets to the whole point, right, about putting scientific rigor on all of this. Let's go now out front to Robert Powell, Executive Board Member for the Scientific Coalition for Unidentified Aerospace Phenomena Studies, UAPs as the scientists call them. So Robert, look, this is a much anticipated government report, and it took a lot to get them to do this. So they're saying there's no evidence that the aerial phenomena that Navy pilots have talked about seeing are alien spacecraft, but yet they admit they have no explanation as to what they actually are. So then I don't know how they don't know what they aren't, but they're saying they don't know what they are. What's your reaction to that?
Well, it's very difficult to believe what they've said, and here's why. They've said one thing, and that is that these are not U.S. craft. So that leaves China, Russia, and basically some unknown intelligence. But the next step after that is it Russian or Chinese? Yep. And what was in that New York Times article that was so interesting is that they said there were 120 incidents over the last 20 years. Well, we know of one in 2004, a couple in 2015, and 1 or 2 in 2019. Where are these 100+ incidents? That means the government has a huge amount of data. In over 20 years, with that many incidents, we haven't figured out if it was the Chinese or the Russians. We have the most sophisticated radar. We have spy satellites all over the planet. We would know where these objects originated and where they headed to. If they came from China or Russia, by now, we should be able to have figured it out. If we haven't, that's concerning.
Extremely concerning, especially given, as you point out, this is over quite a long period of time. So that would indicate a level of technological advancement that is extremely disturbing, that we wouldn't even know or be able to identify. So, you know, we talk about these Navy pilots, Robert. They spoke out to 60 Minutes about what they call a white tic-tac object that they saw off the coast of San Diego. Here's how they described this particular encounter.
The tic-tacs don't point north-south. It goes and just turns abruptly and starts mirroring me. So as I'm coming down, it starts coming up.
So it's mimicking your moves.
Yeah, it was aware we were there. So I go like this, and it's climbing still. And when it gets right in front of me, it just disappears.
Disappears.
Disappears. Like gone.
So, Robert, okay, what do you think these objects actually are? And what do we need to do to find out? Because I would hope everyone could agree that it's not okay to say, well, we don't think it's aliens, but we have no idea what it is. Like that's not acceptable as a conclusion.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Aaron. We can't say we just don't know and just hope that whatever this is resolves itself. The organization I represent, we did a 270-page paper on that specific event that involved Commander Fravor. And we took not only his statement, but the statements of Commander Slate and the other two pilots that were involved. And using their statements, if you believe them, that this object disappeared in 1 to 2 seconds, then you basically have accelerations that are hundreds to thousands of Gs, which is at least 100 years more advanced than anything we've got on the drawing board today.
It's an incredible and thought-provoking way to leave this. Obviously, so many more questions to answer. Robert, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I was going to the phones, right? Okay. Okay, Matt Saylor, ABC.
Hi, John. Thanks for doing this.
Yes, sir.
A quick question on the coming UAP reports. There's been some reporting that this could be coming as soon as this week or maybe even tomorrow. Can you say anything about what timing we should actually expect?
The what report, Matt?
Sorry, the UAP report, UFO report.
That is really for the DNI to speak to, Matt. As you know, this is a report, a congressionally mandated report. DNI is in the lead. It will be DNI who will be making that report. Obviously, DOD has a role in helping flesh out the information that will be in that report. But as for specific timing, I'd refer you to the DNI. Barb, did you have your hand up?
I did. I wanted to follow up on a couple of things. And the very last follow-up, and I hesitate to be asking this, but on the unmanned aerial phenomena report, because you said, because many of these reported sightings have been from military personnel, and because you said that DOD is assisting with this effort, can you tell us anything about what you have been able to rule out? Have you been able to rule out the science fiction scenario of any kind of life form? Is this mechanical phenomena? Is this perhaps atmospheric? Can you just say, for people who are interested, that you have ruled out there's any life forms out there?
I would be getting ahead of a report that hasn't been submitted to Congress yet, and that's never a good idea for a spokesman in this town. So I don't want to get ahead of the report. And I refer you to DNI to speak to that.
That you can rule out at this point.
I am not going to get ahead of a report that this agency is not writing in response to a congressional mandate. I would refer you to DNI for more detail about that. Thanks. I think I've got time for one more, and I apologize for the time crunch today, but I do have to get going here. Paul Shinkman from U.S. News.
And then one last question on the Pentagon's contributions to the UFO report. I've been speaking with a series of experts abroad who have expressed some concern about similar investigations in other countries having too much of a military focus and not enough input from civilian scientists. I wonder if that's a concern that the Pentagon has shared and whether that came up at all during this most recent review process.
We're participating in a DNI-led study, again, mandated by Congress. We're providing context and information that we have on these phenomena, and our focus is on supporting the DNI's efforts to produce this report. That's where our focus is, and again, that's our lane. That's our place to be in, is to provide the kind of context that we have and the information that we have to help the DNI produce this report for Congress. Thanks, everybody. Sorry, I got to rush.
Well, speaking of releasing information, the U.S. government's report on UFOs has leaked in part. Luella Zondo is the man who started this whole process. He's here to tell us what it means and what's being withheld. He also has a document he's going to share with us exclusively that shows how long the government has known about this and hidden it. That's next. By law, the Pentagon is required to tell the public what it knows about UFOs. We're hearing the report is coming out on or about June 25th. Yesterday, someone at the Pentagon gave an early read on the report to the New York Times. In that story, we learned the Pentagon cannot say that UFOs are from a different solar system, but they can't say they're not. They can't say they're from China or Russia, but they can't say they're not. Doesn't sound like they can say much of anything. Luella Zondo is a longtime Pentagon official. For years, he oversaw investigations at the U.S. government into UFOs. He's left now. He and his organization Skyfort have obtained a government document that proves the advanced Tic Tac UFO has been tracked by American military intel services for at least 70 years. That's much earlier than we thought. Luella Zondo joins us tonight. Lou, thanks so much for coming on.
Tucker, always a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to ask you about this document first before I ask you about the upcoming report. What is this document you've obtained show us?
Well, this is a document that was obtained through the Freedom of Information Act, and it demonstrates quite clearly that we have had issues with these, if you will, these UAPs or UFOs in the vernacular for at least 70 years, at least since 1950, probably earlier. And this is official U.S. government correspondence. This isn't some eyewitness report from a civilian. This is official government documentation from military personnel to very senior military brass. And what it says is very quite compelling that, look, we've had a lot of military and intelligence eyewitnesses, to include special agents and scientists, and all of them are seeing these things. And more importantly, the frequency has occurred on a regular and continuing basis over sensitive U.S. military facilities. And this has been occurring, Tucker, again, since 1950, according to official U.S. government documentation. So think about that for a minute when we talk about that on the backdrop of this recent revelation that the U.S. government has finally admitted that this is not some sort of secret U.S. technology. Well, okay, that's great. We already knew that. But now there is some wiggle room to say, well, maybe it's some sort of foreign adversarial technology. Well, here's the problem with that theory, because we know that the Russians, after the Berlin Wall came down, they shared a lot of information with us. There was this 5-year period or so, this new romance between us and Russia, where they shared a lot of their UFO information with us. And by the way, they were seeing exactly the same thing in their skies that we were. So we're sure it's not Russian. So then really the only other country that could possibly be would maybe be China. Well, let's look at that for a second, Tucker, because you're talking about a country that for 70 years has kept this technology that was at least 1,000 years ahead of us, kept it secret, was able to employ it against us all the way back in 1950. By the way, this is the same country that steals billions of dollars worth of our technology each year, trying to keep a competitive advantage to this day with our country. Now, does that make a whole lot of sense to you?
No. I mean, there were famines in China 70 years ago. Quickly, there seems to be some connection, anecdotally there is, between these objects and nuclear reactors, nuclear warheads, nuclear-powered vehicles, submarines and warships. We didn't get nuclear technology, of course, until the end of the Second World War, 44, 45. We had airplanes. We had an Army Air Corps going back to the First World War. Were there sightings of these before the United States possessed nuclear technology?
There were anecdotal sightings, but really there seems to be a significant uptick. Once the United States and other countries really entered into the atomic age, we began to see an increased uptick, what appeared to be some sort of reconnaissance or surveillance of our nuclear technology, our nuclear development, whether it's power or propulsion or weapon systems and related technology.
Yeah. That's just it's amazing. It's a tantalizing suggestion. I'm not sure what it means, but I think it's interesting as hell. Luella Zondo, I appreciate your coming on tonight. I hope we see you soon.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Tucker.
In the meantime, from overseas today, Britain's Ministry of Defense is today refusing to comment on a report that their pilots spent years trying to shoot down UFOs. It allegedly happened a number of times dating back to the 1980s. Well, Nick Pope is our guest. He made this information public. He's also the former head of the Ministry of Defense's UFO project. So if anybody knows, we think it's you, Nick. Now, you say that they've been trying to do this for about 30 years. How do we know that?
The Ministry of Defence here in Britain has been investigating UFOs since the 1950s, but other countries as well have had these sorts of incidents, and I think it's a question of trying to put them together and see what pattern emerges.
Now, you said in your quotas saying that we want to shoot down a UFO that will resolve the issue once and for all. To your knowledge, have they ever been successful?
No, they haven't, and I mean, I'm personally, of course, not advocating that sort of strategy. But what I was saying is that every country, whether it's America, Britain, whatever, takes the territorial integrity of its airspace very, very seriously. Whatever you think about UFOs, whatever you think they are, whether you're a skeptic, you're a believer, or whatever, this is a defense issue, it's a national security issue, it's an air safety issue, and while rules of engagement are, of course, highly classified, the last option is, of course, always a shoot-down.
All right, now, you have said that the Royal Air Force would only engage when they perceived a threat. Well, how do you define what is a perceived threat? Is that the pilot's fault?
No, yes, under some circumstances it has to be. If a pilot believes that they're being fired on, but we've had some cases in England where there have been virtual dogfights between UFOs and military jets.
Dogfights?
Yeah, the dogfights, yeah, absolutely. These things, the UFO issue suffers, I think, from an image problem. But actually, if you look behind the silly season stories about this, these things are seen by pilots, they're tracked on radar, and there have been many, many incidents on the record over the years of these sorts of things.
If there was a dogfight, pardon the interruption here, over the hills of England or the countryside of England, we'd know about that by now, would we not?
Well, yes, and indeed that's the exciting news. The Ministry of Defence is in the process of declassifying and releasing its entire archive of UFO files going back decades.
Now, we've had a little bit of that back here in our own country, okay? Different parts of the country, New Jersey and Arizona, and what they've concluded in some of these cases is that neighbors are filling up helium balloons, putting a flare on the bottom of it, lighting it, letting it go up in the air. So it looks like it's drifting in a certain pattern or a certain area, but it's not a UFO, Nick.
Yes, of course. 95% of UFO sightings do turn out to be things like these helium balloons and aircraft lights. But that's not what's of interest to the government and the military, of course. They're interested in these UFOs when they're tracked on military radar systems and when they're seen by pilots. Commercial airline pilots have seen them, military pilots have seen them.
Nick, are you a believer?
On the balance of probability, I think it's more likely than not that we're not alone in the universe. Whether these things are extraterrestrial or not, I don't know.